Hi everyone, Holly here. I just wanted to pop in with this brief snippet of a podcast I was recently invited to with Shannon Torrence. The podcast is Magic is Real. And we had a fantastic conversation. And in this little snippet, I'm talking specifically about maybe some more palatable ways of people to understand what we might call the concept of God or source. And I also talk a little bit about higher self integration in the higher self integration course. So, highly encourage you to listen to the whole podcast. Again, Shannon Torrence, Magic is Real. Subscribe to her podcast. She's doing amazing work in the spiritual realm. Thank you for listening.
And he also identifies as an atheist, even now. But he goes, I saw that every single thing, down to every grain of sand, has a purpose
Yes.
for being here.
Yes.
That's exactly what he told me. And he said, I realized I'm an important part of all of it. Every single piece of sand, every little tiny thing has an important role to play
Yes.
in our existence and reality.
And Shannon, even the depression has a purpose.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him that too. He's really struggling. And in fact, he said, after he had done that, for a week, he said, I just want to scream at everyone. Do you know that you're a miracle? And he said, he goes, and I said, well, and I talked about atheism. He goes, no, I'm still an atheist. I think he just means he doesn't. I'll have to ask him to clarify. I don't want to speak for him, but since I'm not naming his name, who cares? But I took that to mean like, well, I don't believe in like the guy in the cloud,
Right.
and I don't either.
Right.
But he understood it as, but you know what it is? He believes in it as part of science. That there's nothing. I think that's what he means is it's not anything outside of reality. It's real. Like it's as real as we are, and it's not anything magical. Just depends on your interpretation and your definition.
Yeah.
But
And I think a lot of people are very open. A lot of sciencey people are very open to the thought process of super consciousness. It's just we are sentient beings. Well, what does that mean? It means that we're conscious of ourselves, right? We can observe our own thoughts, so therefore we aren't our thoughts. And so therefore we have this consciousness beyond ourselves, and that consciousness is out there. It's not resident in our bodies, or else we wouldn't be able to observe our own thoughts. And so then everyone's consciousness can be connected to everyone else's consciousness, because it's just the super consciousness that we're tapping into. And so I think that can be a little more palatable for people that are really resisting the religious connotations of spirit.
I think so too. And knowing what you know, do you find yourself having, I don't know, a lot of spiritual experiences, communication with spirit? How do you kind of go through the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you can't not
Once
doing
you're
this
aware of
work.
it, you realize it's just there.
Yeah,
And I'd love to hear
absolutely.
about your
Absolutely.
experience of that, even if it's,
Well, yeah, I actually teach a course called Higher Self Integration. And the point of the course is to a lot of us, we kind of boil the psyche down into ego self and higher self, and the higher self being the eternal part of you that isn't resident in your human body. And then the ego self, the purpose of the ego self is to keep your physical body safe, to keep it alive, right? Clothed, housed, fed. And for most of us, because of some of the early upbringing things that we've talked about, we get very aligned and identified with that ego self. But that's only a small part of us, right? And it's never about denigrating the ego or ego death or quashing the ego. I hate those terms. Your soul decided to incarnate as a human being. And that meant you would have an ego experience. You chose this kind of experience, which meant you would have the ego experience. And so we want to have gratitude for the gift of the human experience and the ego experience. So it's never about pushing the ego aside. But a lot of us are over identified with ego self at the expense of the awareness of the higher self. So we kind of go through, it's a 3-month process. It starts with just awareness of higher self, and then feeling higher self, and then knowing higher self, and then creating a life where you can shift from either ego self to higher self at any moment of any day. You know, you can exercise those muscles to bring forward the aspect of you that's most appropriate to lead the dance in that moment. There are lots of moments when it is very appropriate for the ego self to be leading the dance. And then there are other moments where we can just allow the higher self to lead the dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
Absolutely.
beautiful.